I always did art from a very young age. My mother was an artist, so I watched her, but I ended up going into architecture school at the University of Texas. And I studied architecture for 3 years before I realized that that was not my passion, and realized that when I took a ceramics class. And so I switched to art, and after I switched over, I discovered the glass studio. I actually walked in the glass studio the first time on my birthday, my 22nd birthday, and refused to leave until they let me try it. Took 4 hours to convince them to just let me jump in there. And it was one of those things where I just immediately felt comfortable. So I ended up getting my degree in ceramics there, and I went to graduate school for glass. And then when I moved to St. Augustine in 1998, I decided to go ahead and take the leap and build my own studio. So here we are today, 15 years later. So we call it the 30-year overnight success story. You know, it's a very physical form of art. It's exciting to watch because it all happens so fast, and it's such a physical process, and there's choreography that goes along with that. And I love music, and we listen to music really loud while we're working, and it's like a dance. And also, I was a pyromaniac as a child. All the local firemen knew me by name because I couldn't pass up a pile of leaves without lighting it on fire. But now I have an outlet for that. For me, it's mainly about geometry as a function of balance. When I see something like this piece behind me is called Fountain Blue, and that's inspired by a spring, you know, bubbling up out of the water. I'm trying to capture that organic quality through the means of geometry. If you look at each component of the piece, you'll see a specific patterning in there, and that patterning is modeled after a patterning that happens over and over in nature that you'll see, like if you cut a nautilus shell in half, or you look at the pattern in a sunflower seed or a passion flower, or any number of organic things where you've got this spiral that's coming out of it, you know, that it's a perfect geometry. I'm obsessed with that geometry, and I use it as a means within the piece, as a means to draw people in and make them feel a certain kinship with it on a gut level. So they see it and they instinctively think that it looks or feels organic, and so they're drawn into it that way. And they don't make that connection on a intellectual level necessarily, but they make that connection on a gut level. And they say, oh, it just feels like it's alive, or something like that. And that's a great compliment to me, when they feel that it's something that's alive and organic. When I moved here and started making plans to open my studio, my thought was that I want to try to be an integral part in fostering art and creativity in this town. You know, the whole idea of having a space like this is just to foster creativity. Aside from giving myself a creative outlet, is to give an outlet to the town, and to bring, you know, people together. You know, and we see that when we have our events here. You know, we get hundreds of people and everybody's excited, and that's great. It makes me feel like I'm doing something important here. St. Augustine is one of the most creatively supportive environments that I've ever seen in music and in the visual arts. And you know, most people don't realize that there's quite a few very well-respected professional artists here in St. Augustine who, like me, just sort of have a low profile locally because they don't really sell the work here. You know, they're selling the work in other, you know, in LA and Seattle and New York and Miami and other places, and this is where they have their studios because, like me, they love that creative atmosphere. They love everything about this town that gives them that inspiration.